Hello, my name is Antonio, and this is the commentary for the Ask Toniverse series. I decided to not really focus on any one specific episode of Ask Tonyverse for this commentary video, mainly because there's so many of them, and I don't really feel like any of them are more noteworthy than any of the other ones, if that makes sense. So overall, I just kind of want to talk about this series in general and just kind of my thoughts now that I've posted the final episode at this point. But yeah, so this series, in case you weren't aware, it was basically my excuse to do like a Q&A parody style series. I talk about this in the final episode of Ask Tonyverse, but I was very inspired by the Jack Ask series from the YouTuber Jack's Films and the Dear Ryan series from Ryan Higa, both creators that I have a lot of respect for, look up to them a lot. They definitely have inspired my content. But yeah, I had a lot. I just overall, even when I first started making videos, I knew I wanted to somehow make a series that included user or viewer comments. Because I just thought that that idea was just really fun and lent itself to a lot of creative ideas and just videos, like a lot more potential for fun videos to make. But it took me a while to actually just push myself to finally make the series, because I remember for the longest time I was like, okay, well, if I want to make this series, I need to find a good angle to have or something like that. Like I basically had a really high standard for how I wanted to make this, because I didn't want to just straight up copy these other YouTubers that I had been watching. I wanted to make my own show and make it distinct and just do my own thing. And if I succeeded in that, that's, I guess, a little bit up for debate. I think I definitely made it my own in a lot of ways, but I don't really feel like I ended up finding like a specific angle to make it different. Like it was just kind of like it was just very much a hybrid of like answering questions in a very sarcastic way and then doing little skits here and there as answers to the questions. And that's kind of what I wanted to go for anyway. So overall, I'm satisfied with the series in general and like how it came out. But I remember just around the beginning of 2019, that was when I started really taking a lot more time with my content. And it kind of was like a little bit more creatively unfulfilling, just because I wanted to be putting out more videos. But I wanted to put out videos that I was happy with and videos that were satisfying to make. And so, at one point I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to do the Q&A series. And so I really quickly came up with the idea to call it Ask Tonyverse, because it was a very straightforward title and I didn't think it would be confusing for anybody. And it was honestly just a very last minute decision. But I was just like, you know what? I just want to start making this series. So Ask Tonyverse, that's what it's going to be called. And so I came out with a video just kind of prompting people to ask me questions for the first episode. And I got a lot of comments for that first episode, and I was really happy about that, because I was like, I can't, I don't have like the biggest fan base overall or biggest viewer base. And so I was like, if I'm going to be making a comment-based series, it's going to be hard if I'm not getting a lot of comments. I kind of figured that, I would work with the comments that I had, and if I had to make, sort of like shorter episodes or elaborate on individual questions, I would just do that. And that is what I did for a couple episodes. But overall, like I ended up getting a lot of comments for these, and I was very happy with that. But yeah, the first episode, it went pretty well. I was very happy with the final product. I was like, you know what, this is going to be a really fun series. And the first episode was very relaxed in comparison to future episodes. It was very much just not like no nonsense, just me answering the questions. I mean, obviously, it was a lot of sarcastic answers, and all of these episodes were scripted. Like it was never like a matter of like me reading the comments off the cuff and coming up with answers on the spot. Like I very much wanted to just like make this a scripted series, so it could be like very like sketch comedy like in nature, but also still have like a distinct format. And so I am proud of the finished product in that regard, because that is very much what it is. But yeah, but even with like the third episode, or maybe even the second episode, specifically the third episode, I wanted to start incorporating like more skits into these videos, because it's really fun. I just find the idea of like having a more relaxed sort of distinct format for these videos and then sort of, like in presentation, like when you click on the video, it's like, oh, this is a Q&A. Like it's gonna have this guy sitting down reading these comments, and then it just cuts to like this stupid skit. Like I really like that idea. So specifically with the third episode, the Antoine Pass, I really wanted to incorporate like a really heavy skit and like a, sort of a running gag throughout the video. So that's where I came up with this like commercial parody. And I had done commercial parodies before, and I wanted to do more. So this was just a good excuse to do that. But yeah, that was kind of like the catalyst of me like wanting to do like skit based episodes on a more consistent basis. And I was just like, this is really fun because I can take a really fun aspect of Ask Tonyverse as a series was working with the comments that I was given and never like deviating far from those, because a lot of times, and I I talk about this in the final episode, but a lot of times my friends would be like, "Oh, you obviously have like a lot of ideas for these videos. If you have like a specific question that you need us to ask in order to like use that idea, we can totally do that for you." And I thought about that like here and there. I was like, okay, well, I have this idea that I want to do, and I think it'd be fun to like if someone asked me this specific question and then I could answer it in this way. But then I kind of realized that that kind of defeats the purpose of Ask Tonyverse, or like a Q&A style series. Like if I had an idea for a video and I wanted to make that video, I should just make that video. But the thing about Ask Tonyverse was like the restriction of like specifically forcing myself to use the comments that were left and nothing more, was like that was kind of the whole point in my head. Was like, okay, well, you know naturally people aren't always going to ask the questions that I expect them to ask, but that's okay. Like I want to work with the comments that I'm given. So I never asked my friends to leave specific comments for myself, because I was just like, I just want you to leave whatever comment comes to your mind, and I will make the videos based on those comments. And so that is throughout the entirety of the I guess 3-year run of Ask Tonyverse. That is what I did. I mean, there were obviously instances where I specifically asked for themed questions, and that was just because I kind of I kind of just like had these, like that was basically the bare, like the most I would do in terms of like gauging the questions that were being asked. Is I was just like, oh, it'd be fun to do like a Christmas themed episode or a Halloween themed episode or a episode where I talk about my dogs because I wanted to have my dogs in a video. So maybe just like I just kind of would encourage my viewers to ask questions regarding those topics. But even then, I was like, I still left it pretty open ended. I was just like, you can just ask something as simple as like, what do you want for Christmas for the Christmas episode, or what are you going to be for Halloween for the Halloween episode, stuff like that. Like very basic questions, still definitely could make it your own. I just wanted to do more themed episodes, and this series in general was a really a really nice excuse to do themed videos, because I never really focused that hard on like making themed content, like holiday themed content or whatever, just because I don't know. I just never really had many ideas for those types of videos. I mean, at least like later into when I was making them, like early on when I was doing like Sunday funnies and all that, like I had a lot of ideas for themed skits and whatever. But around this period when I was making Ask Tonyverse, I was just like, I don't really have anything other to do for these like a Christmas themed video or Halloween themed video. So I'll just ask my fans to to for Christmas themed episodes, and then I'll just or Christmas themed questions, and I'll just use that as an excuse to make a Christmas themed video, and so on and so forth. But that is kind of what I rolled with for a while. Just I would just like specifically ask for themed questions, and that would be the most that I would do. And then, I had an idea like early in 2020, where I was just like, I really enjoy making Ask Tonyverse. And one aspect of Ask Tonyverse that was true, but not necessarily something I like to admit, was that, these videos were sometimes a little easier to make, just by design, because, a lot of times they were me sitting on my bed or sitting on just talking to the camera, reading comments, and then, talking off of a script. And they didn't always have like these elaborate skits in them. So I was just like, okay, well, it's kind of an easier series to make. So maybe I can make this series every month. And that was around the beginning, or I guess it was around the beginning of 2021 specifically. I was like, maybe I can start posting every week, and I can, make an episode of Ask Tonyverse every month because I thought that just sounded like a good idea. Well, turns out I kind of abandoned that very fast, mainly because episode 10 of Ask Tonyverse, I ended up going very. I ended up being very elaborate with that episode. Like that might be one of the most elaborate episodes of Ask Tonyverse, disregarding like, I guess like the apartment tour episode and certain other episodes. But that one specifically, there's a lot of like certain different shots that I had to worry about and skits that I needed to do, and overall, that video specifically, I remember I filmed that in March of 2021, and I didn't actually post it until July of 2021, mainly because I was going through a rough period of time around that time, and I didn't have a lot of motivation to work on videos, and so I kind of just sat on that footage for a while. But I ended up making it. It was a video that I had entirely filmed, so I was like, I'm not just gonna scrap this, but you know, I wanted to make I wanted to just like maybe slow down on them a little bit, and not go as hard. So like episode 10 was pretty elaborate, and I was pretty happy with the finished product. Episode 11 was very not elaborate. It was very much like a very standard, just me talking to the camera episode of Ask Tonyverse, which I was okay with because I was like, you know what, you got to have like those more laid back episodes sometimes. And then episode 12, that was a little bit more elaborate just because I wanted to have like a themed episode, but not necessarily one that I prompted. And so I did like a sort of like I'll take all these questions that are more like educational themed in nature, but not necessarily intentionally educational. I don't know. Like that's just the idea I had. I was just like, I'm gonna be a teacher, and I'm going to I'm going to answer these questions as if I'm educating my viewers and whatever. Because some of them were just like more like I don't know, science or math based, I guess. Anyway, but that was one thing about Ask Tonyverse. Another aspect of it was that a lot of times when I would be making these episodes, I had like a surplus of comments to work off of. Sometimes like they were kind of hard to fit in one episode, like just because I had a lot of questions coming in from like the same people sometimes, and so like I didn't want to include like all questions from Donovan. I mean, I ended up doing that with Cody, but that was like the one exception, and that I decided to do that very late, but overall, like it was a challenge in and of itself to like find the right time to use some of these comments. But sometimes like I wouldn't even use a comment that I would get for an Ask Tonyverse until like a year after it was left, just because I didn't know how to include it, or maybe it was just a matter of like I didn't know how to incorporate it into a script, and it was just as simple as that. But yeah, but overall, like, so some of these are very random. There's very like a lot of the times if you're watching the video and you left the comment, you probably forgot that you even left the comment because of how long it took me to actually incorporate it into a video. But that was also kind of a fun aspect of Ask Tonyverse, was kind of just like not really setting like super hard rules. Like I never forced myself to like, okay, the next episode will only work. I'm only going to work off of the comments that were left on the previous episode. Like I never really did any of that. It was just like I would go to any of my comment section. Actually, normally I would just screenshot all of the comments and then put them in a folder on my Google Drive. And then when I would actually sit down to write an episode, I would just pull from that Google Drive and just be like, okay, I'll include that one. Like I would try to think of answers while I was reading them and be like, okay, I think I got a good answer for that one. But overall, like I just kept on making this series, and over time, I definitely I don't think I ever really got to a point where I wasn't having fun making this series, but I kind of got to the point where I was like, this series is a little more niche in comparison to like some of the other videos I'm making. Not that my videos in general are kind of niche, or at least my old content. But you know, I wanted to make more like videos that were appealing to everyone. So I kind of made the decision in early 2022 that I was going to probably stop doing Ask Tonyverse at the end of the year. Like I was going to make episodes up until episode 20, and then that was going to be the final episode. I just thought that 20 was a really nice number to end on. And so around that time when I decided that, that's when I came up with the apartment tour episode. And I really just wanted an excuse to kind of like show off the apartment that we had all moved into, and just talk about that in general. And so I just reused the comment that Cody left for the house tour episode, and I was just like, you know what, this would be fun to do. So I ended up doing that, and that was like probably one of the most fun episodes of Ask Tonyverse for me was that apartment tour episode. Just because I got to incorporate a lot of my friends into it, and I had a lot of different shots, and I had my friend Quentin help me film it and all that. And there were some like funny little skits that we ended up doing, and it was a good time doing that one. As much as they are more work, I liked doing the more skit heavy episodes of Ask Codyverse while still maintaining like a format where I would read the comments and then cut to a skit. Even though the apartment tour episode was just pretty much an entire skit, but while still maintaining a format of me presenting my apartment. The Oops All Cody episode was definitely a lot more like, okay, I have a lot of comments from Cody. I'm just gonna include them all in a video, and that's the theme of the episode. And that one was definitely fun to do, like especially the game show little skit with my dogs. That one that specifically comes to mind as a really fun aspect of that video. And then I remember around the time this was around the time when I was making the recreating iconic movie posters video. I needed like an episode of Ask Tonyverse to do that wasn't like scripted because I was working on so many other videos. I didn't have like the energy to like go through my comments and like pick out comments for another episode and like write a script around it. So that's what I did the episode where I talked about my most popular videos, and that's the only episode still that was basically not scripted, like really at all. Like only certain parts of it were like generally scripted just so I could have more of a structure to it. But overall, like it is very much just me going through my popular videos and just talking about them. And it ended up being a lot more work just because it was a lot longer of an episode because it was a lot of just me talking. But even then, like that was probably like the one of the weirder episodes, just because it's not even really an Ask Tonyverse. It's just me reading the comments, and I used Ask Tonyverse as an excuse to make that video. But that does still make it one of the more weird episodes to me, at least. But I still think it's an entertaining watch to an extent. The birthday episode, I just thought making a birthday episode would be fun, and so I did. And the last couple episodes, the second to last one, with the one where I shoot Puseptiplier, that one, I sat on these comments for a while, that Donovan and my friend Donovan and my friend Aiden left, about Puseptiplier, which was a character that I used to play like in my very first days of YouTube, and I didn't know how I would incorporate them into a video, but I kind of just got to the point where I was just like, I need some sort of theme for this episode or some sort of like main joke for this episode. So I was just like, what if I bring back Puseptiplier for like like a 30-second gag where I play him and then I literally just kill him off. And so I was just like, all right, that's what I'm doing. And that was around the time when I was, getting very burnt out with videos. But that video in specific, the second to last episode, I was very proud of because it didn't feel like I was rushed to make that. Like that was one of the first videos after posting weekly for so long. That was one of the first videos that I didn't set like a hard deadline for myself for. And it felt really good because I was just able to finish it at a natural pace and put it out and just be happy with it. And so I was really happy to just get that done. And then the final episode, obviously, that one was a really special one to me because I actually got to, incorporate a lot of jokes, but also just a lot of like more serious, just talk about my videos and the series in general. And that's kind of why I like doing these commentary videos, is because that's kind of what I get to do. Overall with this series, I'm very happy with this series. I think I'm going to continue to look back fondly on it. I think it really shows like a growth in my content, and you can see that just from watching the first episode and then watching the last episode. Like they're very similar in nature. By design, I wanted the last episode to feel very much like the first episode. And you can really see like the growth in like just how I'm able to make my videos and my content in general. And so yeah, As Tonyverse was a very special series to me. I'm really happy that I got to make it for as long as I did, and I got to make as many episodes as I did. But I think it ended at just the right time. I think I was ready to sort of just like say goodbye to this series. But I think I sent it off on a nice note, so I'm happy about that. And I think overall, people really enjoyed this series, so I'm happy about that as well. And I'm just excited for the future overall. I'm excited for future videos, future content, and just more things to come. And I hope you guys are feeling the same way. But overall, that is going to end this commentary video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.